As you know, former President Trump has pleaded not guilty to 34 felony counts of falsifying business records. That was all charged by the grand jury convened by Manhattan D.A. Alvin Bragg. This was a case, of course, rejected by the Justice Department, rejected by the Federal Election Commission, rejected by Bragg's predecessor, Cy Vance, and initially rejected by Bragg himself. Now, magically, he's come up with 34 counts. Now, this is a guy who explicitly ran to get Trump, remember? And when he ran to get Trump, he had no evidence, no information. So, as you might guess, I don't think much of Mr. Bragg. By the way, he spent months going after Trump, but he failed to take down some of New York's worst repeat offenders, including several with 100-plus arrests. Many of them are still roaming the streets of the city. In fact, the same 10 criminals made up nearly 500 crimes. 60% of that crowd is still out there. And this year alone, New York has suffered 84 homicides and more than 3,400 robberies. Bragg apparently had no time for repeat criminals, but he had plenty of time to go after Donald Trump. Former Attorney General Bill Barr is calling it the epitome of prosecutorial abuse. He called it a pathetically weak case and said the crossing of the Rubicon. Former prosecutor Andrew McCarthy writes in National Review, this appears to be about as execrable an exercise of prosecutorial discretion as one can fathom. Andy McCarthy is going to be right here. In fact, he's sitting right next to me right now. Meanwhile, former Federal Election Commission Chair Bradley Smith writes in the Wall Street Journal that the crime Mr. Bragg claims is being covered up isn't a crime at all. Mr. Smith will also be here in a few moments. Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett calls the case against Trump, quote, politically motivated witch hunt. Greg's coming later in the show. And influential Congressman Byron Donalds refers to this judicial travesty as, quote, political persecution. He, too, will be up later on. For my part, I'd say it's political persecution and prosecution. And by the way, as the non-lawyer, can I just ask a few brief questions, please? Everybody refers to something called hush money, but we don't know if there was any hush money from Mr. Trump. His disgraced former lawyer, the convicted perjurer Michael Cohen, has said on one occasion Trump paid him through him, but on another occasion he said Trump never knew anything about it. Stormy Daniels, in 2 letters, has said there was no affair with Mr. Trump, though nobody wants to refer to those letters. Attorney Robert Costello, who once represented Cohen, well, he told the grand jury that there were 315 emails. They were not shown by D.A. Bragg, including evidence that Trump had no knowledge of what Michael Cohen was actually doing. I'm just saying, remember, I'm the non-lawyer here. How about a venue change? Bragg ran to get Trump in Manhattan, right? I don't think there are any Republicans left in Manhattan, except maybe our small weekly dinner group at Italian restaurants. How about moving it to Staten? That was a joke. How about moving it to Staten Island? Plenty of patriots out there. And what about the statute of limitations running out for both misdemeanor and felony charges? Whatever happened to them? And just for one moment away from the courtroom, what about the deep recession in manufacturing? Continued high inflation. The Saudis and the Russians jacking up oil prices just a couple of days after the Bragg indictment announcement without a peep from President Biden. And, oh, yeah, a Chinese balloon floating over the country, pausing just long enough to eavesdrop over our nuclear intercontinental ballistic missile systems. And, oh, yeah, did I forget the Mexican drug cartels running the southern border? And the concerned parents are fighting on a daily basis to get their kids a decent education? Alvin Bragg's really just another left-wing apple. That's all he is. And Donald Trump is still standing proudly. You saw him today. I believe Trump will beat the rap. And then he'll get on with the task of making America great again. Again. All right? That's me. Just me. Wanted to weigh in. I'm not even a lawyer. All right. Now, joining me.